So the Obama administration still resists calling for a global war against radical Islamists, something that the leaders of Canada and Paris and Egypt have said is simply a reality that we may not want to recognize, but we must. I asked the State Department's Marie Harf to explain why it is so hard to give it that name last night on the Kelly File. Here's what she said.
Well, it's not hard to say, but it's not the only kind of extremism we face. Much of it Islamic, you're absolutely right, but some of it not. So we're going to focus on all the different kinds of extremism with a heavy focus on people who do this in the name of Islam. We would say falsely in the name of Islam, but there are other forms of extremism that are also important.
Tell me, what other forms of extremism are particularly troubling and compelling to you right now?
Well, look, there are people out there who want to kill other people in the name of a variety of causes. Of course, Martha, we are most focused on people doing this in the name of Islam. It's not as easy as defining it the way you just did. We have to look at each threat individually. How you talk about these groups is different in terms of combating them based on where they are and the threat they pose and how you fight them.
All right, so that's true. Let's break it down with Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. He is a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Good to have you with us, Congressman, this morning.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here.
So Marie Harf was arguing that the reason that they won't call it a war or an effort or a battle against global Islamic extremism is that there are so many other groups that also want to do people harm that they think it would not be right to label it that when there's all these other groups. She struggled, though, to name any of those other groups that they were very concerned about at this point. And she also said it was overly simplistic to see a common thread between what has happened in Pakistan or Boko Haram or the actions of Hamas and Sydney and Boston and Paris. She said that was wrong to show a common thread. What do you think?
It's unreal. You did a great job last night, by the way, but I'll tell you, this is, I come from Illinois. I know kind of those Chicago Democrats and kind of that Berkeley Democrat. This is a left-wing view of the world, which is we can't call it what it is. If we're nice and we have, go to conference room A and get some toast and milk, we can talk about the extremism problem and fix it. The reality is this is Islamism, Islamic extremism that we are at war with. We've been at war with them for longer than we've even known we've been at war with them. They've been at war with us for a long time. This is not declaring the whole religion of Islam bad, and I think that's where people need to understand. This isn't doing that, but this is saying there is a strain of that religion that seeks to kill every last one of us and create another caliphate, which is this kind of false memory of how things used to be. And it is time that either we recognize it now when it's somewhat manageable, or we will eventually recognize it when it's brought onto our shores again, like what happened in Paris, or frankly like what happened on 9/11, but maybe even on a bigger scale. I wear the name of a guy named Christopher Horton on my wrist, who was killed in Afghanistan a few years ago, and he was not killed by Christian extremists or Buddhist extremists. He was killed by Islamists.
I understand what you're saying, and the need to recognize the people whose lives have been lost in this fight and to validate that loss of life by understanding exactly what they were fighting against. And, when you look at the words of Egypt's leader, al-Sisi, who is a Muslim, who says that Muslim is being corrupted, that his religion is being corrupted by these radical Islamists. And I wonder why we haven't seen a more forceful outreach on the part of the White House and the administration to say, thank you. This is the kind of language that we have been hoping to hear in order to bridge this gap and to band together against what everybody understands is the fringe and a radical branch of this religion.
Because they don't want to do it. They just want to do the bare minimum to get through President Obama's next 2 years and let this issue be handled by whoever the next president of the United States is. We've seen this all over. I mean, you see it with ISIS. Initially, he called ISIS the JV team. When I was calling for bombing them at that time, and I don't have access to the intelligence information that he does. And then now he's attacking them, which I give him credit for, but almost not as intensely as you need to be. It's a lack of a desire to really call it what it is, and it's a disservice to the people, the men and women that I serve with, and the men and women, frankly, of all the United States military that have put their lives on the line. The 18-year-olds that today are going to walk into the Army recruiter, the Marine or the Air Force recruiter or Navy and say, I want to sign to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. That would be a great service to those folks to say, yes, we do have an enemy, and unfortunately we're going to have to use military power to take them out, but let's recognize who they are, and this is who they are.
How troubling is it that the leaders in Canada and Paris, and France rather, have talked about this in a different language. And how difficult does it make that for President Obama or Secretary of State John Kerry when they get together to discuss these things?
It's embarrassing, frankly. I mean, when I watched the march and I saw that there was no American presence, when I hear the Prime Minister of Canada, who's fantastic, by the way, making very strong statements, when I see, a little bit of a different issue, but the boss over in Australia tell Putin he needs to get out of Ukraine, this is the kind of leadership that's coming forward because the American leadership vacuum, which, frankly, as Americans, we ought to be proud of. It's not something we ought to be ashamed of. We ought to be proud that people look to the United States, but there's a huge vacuum. And when I travel the world and I talk to diplomats, they just look at me and go, where is America gone? And the best thing I can say is, look, I'll do the best I can in Congress to bring that leadership vacuum back, but reality, it's probably going to take another president, and hopefully, fortunately, it's still 2 years away.
Congressman Kinzinger, thank you very much. Always good to speak with you. We'll see you next time.
Great.